Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm going to give folks just a minute to get their audio connected and get settled in. While we're waiting, I just want to say thank you. I know that right now in education, time is the most valuable resource you have. You're juggling lesson plans, grading, IP meetings, parent emails, and about a billion other things. But the fact that you're choosing to spend 60 minutes here thinking about how to better support your student really says everything about who you are as educators. So if we haven't met already, my name is Leandra and I am the Education Strategy Lead at Infosys Foundation, USA. Before coming to the foundation, I was an educator for several years, and then I entered EdTech where I was able to let my passion about computer science blossom. And now I'm at the foundation where our goal is to expand CS initiatives across the United States. So, our topic today, how AI can promote accessibility and inclusion in your classroom. Now, before we dive into tools, before we talk about software, you can see this is more about the human side of things because accessibility isn't a checklist item. It's not a compliance box that we tick. It's about dignity. It's about making sure every student in your classroom feels like they belong and can access learning. So, I want to share something personal with you to frame our conversation today. So, what's personal is that I am hard of hearing, completely hard of hearing. I have no hearing out of my left ear. And a couple of weeks ago, I had a surgery that would possibly enable me to hear, and I should see the results in about 6 weeks. But I've had multiple surgeries and they have been unsuccessful. So I'm telling you this because for me, captions aren't just a nice feature on Netflix. They're a lifeline. When I'm in a loud room or on a video call with spotty audio or trying to process a fast-paced conversation, I rely completely on those words appearing on the screen. Without them, I'm guessing, I'm exhausted, I'm anxious, and with them, I'm present, I'm understanding, and I'm participating fully. And honestly, between us, I often wish there were captions floating below everyone who's speaking to me in real life. It would change everything. Now, I share this because I want us to think about our students. How many of them are walking around our classrooms guessing instead of knowing? We have students who are capable, bright, creative, and curious, but they're facing invisible barriers every day. So let's look at what some of those invisible barriers might be. So there are some types of students, these are a list on the screen of some that we're talking about today. So the student who understands the science concept perfectly, but can't read the textbook fast enough to access it. Or the student who has a brilliant story in their head, but can't physically write it down without pain. The student who arrived from another country and feels isolated by the language. That student with ADHD who loses focus halfway through written directions but would understand perfectly if they could hear them, or the student who mishears instructions in a noisy classroom and spends 20 minutes doing the wrong assignment. These are just a few of the dozens of more students that this would apply for what we're going over today. So today is not about using AI to do the work for students, it's about using AI to remove the barriers so students can do the work, so they can show what they know, and so they can participate fully in your classroom. Okay, so reframing assistive versus cheating. All right, let's address the elephant in the room immediately because we cannot talk about AI in schools without talking about this. The question I hear constantly is if I let students use this, isn't it cheating? So if the computer reads the text to them, are they cheating at reading? If they dictate their essay instead of typing it, are they cheating at writing? If they get captions during a video, are they cheating at listening? I want us to slow down and really examine the question. So they think about a student with poor vision. When they put on glasses to read the board, do we say, hey, you're cheating at seeing, take those off? Of course not, that would be absurd. And think about the student who uses a wheelchair. When they use the ramp to get into the cafeteria, do we say you're cheating at walking? No, we say this is the tool you need to access the building. This is what makes the space usable for you. And AI, when used for accessibility, is a cognitive ramp. It's a language ramp. So here's the framework I want us to use today. We need to distinguish between productive struggle and destructive struggle. Productive struggle is when a student is wrestling with a complex math concept or analyzing why a character made a choice or debating the cause of a historical event. That struggle is where the learning happens. That's the good stuff. We want that. And destructive struggle is when a student spends like 40 minutes trying to decode the first paragraph of an assignment, not because they can't understand the concept, but because the act of reading is so exhausting that they have zero cognitive energy left to actually think about what they read. So our goal today is to use AI to eliminate destructive struggle so students have energy for the productive struggle. If students use text to speech to listen to a chapter of a novel, and then they engage in a deep, thoughtful discussion about the themes of that novel, the learning happened. The format of how they accessed the content didn't matter. The thinking did. And that's the lens we're using for everything today. So UDL, some of you are already familiar with it, Universal Design for Learning Connection. It asks us to provide multiple means of representation, meaning students can access information in different ways. Multiple means of action and expression, meaning students can show that they know in different ways, and multiple means of engagement, meaning students can connect with learning in the ways that work for them. Traditionally, doing this required enormous amount of time. You spend your entire planning period, I've been there, creating 3 different versions of the same worksheet. You'd stay up late making modified reading materials, or you'd scramble to find resources in different languages. All of this, and you could only differentiate for so many students because you ran out of hours in the day. It was never enough. Now, what AI allows us to do is honor learner variability without destroying ourselves in the process. And here's something really important to understand. Accessibility supports are not just for students with IEPs or 504 plans. They support multilingual learners, students with ADHD, students who are overwhelmed, injured, gifted students who may learn at a faster pace. So when we design for accessibility from the start, everyone benefits. And that's the promise of UDL, and AI gives us better tools to actually make that happen. So let's dive into some specific barriers and specific solutions. So barrier number 1, language and belonging. So one of the most common and most isolating barriers in classrooms today is language access. So I used to teach ESL students. I was an ESL teacher for a couple of years, and I loved that classroom. I had students from all over the world, China, Ukraine, Puerto Rico. The diversity was beautiful. The perspectives were rich, but I also saw the isolation that came with being the only student in the room who didn't fully understand what was happening. So imagine sitting in a room for 7 hours a day where people are speaking a language that you only understand maybe 20% of, and you're not just confused, you're exhausted, you're anxious, you start to shut down because your brain can only handle so much uncertainty. So this is what I saw firsthand with a lot of my students. And I learned that having something, anything in their home language made a massive difference. It wasn't just about academics, it wasn't just about the assignment done, it was about the signal that it sent. You belong here, we want you to be a part of the classroom, your language matters, your background matters. So back then, differentiation like this took me hours. I remember spending my summers on this. I was copying and pasting text into clunky Google Translate, printing out separate worksheets, hunting for resources, and some of that was probably incorrect or culturally inappropriate. And I was trying to do all of that for my students, and it may not have been effective. But today, AI can bridge that gap almost instantly and with much higher quality. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to share my screen here, and I am going to share it with, we're going to do some chat GPT here. And so I have a standard informational text about the water cycle. It's written at about a sixth grade reading level, and it has words like evaporation, condensation, precipitation. And for a native English speaker with strong reading skills, this is accessible. But for a newcomer who's still building English vocabulary, this could be very overwhelming. So I'm going to copy this text and I'm going to use ChatGPT. You can use Claude, Gemini, whatever you'd like. And I'm going to give it a very specific prompt. I'm going to read this prompt out loud in case you can't see it on the screen. And so I had this prompt prepared ahead of time. And it says, you are a bilingual ESL science teacher. So we're giving it the craft framework, and I'm saying like who the role is and what kind of details it needs, etc. I have a Spanish speaking middle school student who needs to access grade level science content while learning English vocabulary. Translate this text into conversational Spanish, but keep all the key science terms in English. Notice the science terms are in English with Spanish in parentheses, like evaporation, evaporación, and bold the English terms. Break into short 2 to 3 sentence paragraphs, maintain scientific accuracy, and use a warm, encouraging tone. Here's the text. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and paste my water cycle text here. It's about like a good solid 4 or 5 paragraphs, and I'm going to copy it over. And here we go. It can handle all that text, of course. And now we're going to give it a good 10 seconds to just go through. And here it is. It is giving us this content, and the student can understand the concept of the water cycle in their home language, but they're also building connections to the English terminology. They're not being asked to learn science and a new language at the exact time with zero support, which is really cool. So we see words like evaporation, and then it's in Spanish, evaporación, and the definition is in Spanish. And then we have the word oceans in English, and then same thing with water vapor, and these key words are all in there. So really neat. All right, so now let's pretend you have a different student, maybe a native English speaker, but they have a reading disability and they need something at a much lower grade. So I'm going to try to enter a new prompt. This is a little lengthy, bear with me. So some of these prompts are lengthy, but they are necessary in order to get what we want out of the AI. So for this one, I'm saying you are an elementary special ed teacher who specializes in grade level content for reading challenges, native English student who understands science concepts, but needs to read at a third grade reading level. So we're going to rewrite this, but keep all science accurate, don't simplify, make sentences under 10 words when possible, use simpler vocabulary, and break into very short paragraphs. And so now we have all of these definitions here, and our goal here is not to dumb it down or make it simpler in the sense that they are reducing the context of knowledge here. No, we are still giving them everything that we're giving our other students, but here we are now making it in a way that is accessible for them. And so you see it's giving us all that key vocabulary in there, and it's giving all those definitions so that they can understand it with sentences that are 10 words or less, easy vocabulary. So that's just a couple of ways that we can do it. I mean, it's the same science, the same concepts, the same learning goal, but the access point is different. All right, so let's think about parent communication too for the language barriers. This is really huge. I mean, sending home an email or something in their native language, and that can change the entire relationship between a home and a school. All right, let's move on to barrier number 2, which is reading and visual access here. So many students can technically decode words on a page. They can sound them out, they can recognize the letters, but comprehension breaks down because so much mental energy is being spent on decoding that there's nothing left for understanding and meaning. And other students have strong comprehension skills, but struggle with visual tracking. They lose their place on the page, or they experience eye strain after reading for 15 minutes. or they have dyslexia and certain fonts or backgrounds make reading uncomfortable. There's so many different things that could be affecting them. And this is where tools like text to speech tools, or tools that make reading more accessible come into play. And I want to be very clear here that when we do this, the content isn't changing, expectations aren't changing, only the access method. So if we're using text to speech, you may be thinking, but won't students just listen and zone out? Like, won't they stop actually reading and just let the computer do the work for them? Well, what research shows is that listening while following along visually actually supports decoding and fluency for many learners. It doesn't replace reading, it scaffolds it, it builds the brain's connection between the written word and the spoken word, and it helps students recognize patterns faster. So let me show you what this looks like. So I'm going to open up a web article. Let me share my web page here. And I'm going to do like this one on renewable energy from National Geographic. And I'm going to turn on this extension called Helper Bird. Now, Helper Bird is free. If you want some additional pro features, you have to pay for them. But for what we're using today, everything is completely free and it's on every browser like Chrome, Edge, Mozilla Firefox, all of those browsers is on them. And so what you can do here is we can highlight it. I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to highlight this paragraph, and then I'm going to turn it into immersive reading mode. And so we see that there was a lot of like complex sentences, multi-syllable words. And of course, for some students, this could trigger anxiety. You know, they'd shut down before they even started. But with the immersive reader button, look at how simple it makes it. And what's cool is if we click the grammar options here, we can actually color code nouns, verbs. We can turn it off or on, adjectives. And the with the text, we can make it larger or smaller, and we can increase spacing between it. And we can also do different themes and backgrounds. So if I think I saw a note in the chat about if yes, it is available for Chrome. I'm using Chrome. And if your district blocks things, I would definitely bring this forward to the technology department and tell them that this is something you would like to have access to on your students' computers, and they should be able to unblock it for you. I would do that a lot when I needed some software for my students. And so what's cool here is that you can actually click on the nouns and it has like picture definitions for them. You can also do translate it into a different language. It doesn't only have to be familiar ones. It can be like dialect in Chinese or anything like that, used from Google Translate, and it actually uses all those. And what's cool is we have text to speech. So I can choose the person, the voices that I would like, and then I press play. I don't know if you can hear it.
The wind, the sun, and earth are sources of renewable energy. These energy sources naturally renew or replenish themselves.
Okay, so I'm going
wind, sunlight, and the planet have energy.
And that I think I really love. This app is free and it's great for accessibility. So definitely give it a try for your students. You can put it on all of your students' laptops, and they can decide. They can decide what's best for them. Like, what is the color that they need in the background? What kind of spacing do they need? What words need to be underlined? Do they need this little underline feature right here that can underline the words for them? And it kind of just like keeps it in a everything in the same area so they can see it all at once. So I'm going to turn that feature off now, and we're going to go back to our next barrier. But hopefully this is very helpful for students with visual processing issues and students who have issues seeing. We can change these text size here. And I mean, this is about removing barriers. If a student needs larger text to read comfortably, like why in the world wouldn't we provide that? It costs us nothing. I'm one of those people. I wear trifocals. Like I need it large. I need it big, and I wish I had this back when I was in school. All right, so now we're going to move on, and I turned it off. And if you notice, if you turn it off, it just goes back to the regular page that it was before. Um, and I'm going to go back to our screen here. All right, so basically, in a classroom, this could look like, oh, it looks like it has affected my actual screen here. So I'm going to turn it off and see if it goes back to normal. There we go. Um, So in a classroom, this might look like a student listening to a complex article during independent reading time while everyone else is reading traditionally, or it might look like a student with a headache. So maybe you have a student that suffers from migraines and they're using audio instead of straining their eyes. Maybe a student replaying directions um, instead of asking the teacher to repeat them for the fourth time. So this really is a way to really help your students. All right, now let's move on to barrier number 3, which is auditory processing and hearing barriers. So of course, this is very near and dear to my heart. But this doesn't only affect those who are deaf or hard of hearing. This is for students with an auditory processing disorder, ADHD who struggle to filter out background noise, students who are overwhelmed in loud classrooms, or sometimes the HVAC system kicks in and they missed an instruction. So all of this can happen um, to any student, not just our deaf and hard of hearing students. So for me, I can hear that someone is talking, I can hear sound, but if there's background noise or if someone speaks quickly or if I'm tired, I miss words, I miss meaning. Anybody on my Infosys Foundation team can tell you how many times I've been like, I'm sorry during one of our meetings. I'm always trying to fill in gaps. So for students, this can mean missing instructions entirely. It can missing an misunderstanding an assignment or doing the wrong thing, and it can mean feeling left out of the class because they can't follow it. So this is where live transcription comes into play. So you all know what live transcription is. I don't have to demo it. I'm going to go ahead and show you some live transcription tools that are free that you can use, but Google Meet or Zoom already has them automatically. So if you're doing any learning or recorded lessons online, go ahead and fill it in for your students. And I'm going to go ahead and do one here. I'm using 11 Labs speech to text. And I think what's really good about this one, it is not free for regular users, but it is free for educators and students. So you just have to like put that in there, and you just have to let them know that I am an educator and I teach students, and they will give you 11 labs for free. And then you can put it on your student's laptop or have it on the bottom of your screen on your smartboard and just have it actually live transcription of your class and what you're teaching just to make it more accessible for them. So it's transcribing what I'm saying right now, but really good, very exact. And I love that it does do a little bit of punctuation there, commas, periods, and things like that, just to make sense of what I'm saying. All right, so we're going to stop there. And another one that is good is Otter. It does have a pro feature. Um, Maestra does. I didn't see anything about educators for these, but these are very exact, very friendly. And there are some, like if you look up for free websites, there's like Transcriber, Sonics, Meet for Geek, and things like that. So definitely do your research. There's plenty out there. Make sure that it follows under your district's regulations. And if not, do the research to make sure that it is privacy friendly and then see if your district can add it on. All right, so now we are going to move on to number 4. Um, and so this barrier number 4, is writing and physical expression. So, I think we can take for granted how writing can be physically demanding. Like it requires fine motor control, hand eye coordination, stamina, speed. And for many students, writing is actually painful, literally painful. I had a cousin who had arthritis at a young age, and it was very difficult for her to keep up with the class. So I had a student years ago, 10 years ago, whew, a long time ago. I'll call him Marcus, and he had significant motor difficulties and speech challenges. But he was very bright. He had opinions, he had jokes, he had observations, but his body just wouldn't cooperate with the pencil, and his speech was really hard to understand. So I worked with him to learn some basic sign language, and suddenly he had a mode of communication that felt more natural to him. He wasn't the kid who can't talk anymore. He was having funny comments, smart questions, and really able to express himself. And so for many students, the keyboard or the pencil is the wall standing between them and expression. They have what I call blank page syndrome. And it's not because they don't have ideas, but because the process of typing or writing is so slow and so frustrating that they lose their train of thought before they finish the sentence. So, this is where speech to text or voice typing changes everything. And just about every device now has speech to text. So, if you don't find it in your device, you can also find it online. For example, if you're doing a Google Doc. So let's go ahead and look at a Google Doc here. And the way you find it in a Google Doc, if your school uses Google Docs, is you go to Tools. Normally, when you're looking for voice to text, it will be under the Tools area or the Edit area. And so you'll go under Tools for this one, Voice Typing. And I'm going to go ahead and add it back in. I'm going to tap it here. And what's really neat is that it will go ahead and actually type it for me. Now, what does this mean for students? Um, we have to be careful here because we have to teach our students how to use it effectively. If we just say, talk to the computer and it will write your essay, um, they will ramble, they will create a disorganized mess. So we need to model it. We need to teach them the process. So I want to show you how to frame this with students because the key message is dictation is for drafting, your brain is for thinking, and your eyes and hands are for editing. And so here, as you can see, I'm typing. I may use a lot of uhs, like, for now, oh, I'm not sure, by the way, words that are like a lot of filler words like and so forth. And so that's not going to be deleted here. I'm going to have to go in and actually delete that information. There's a lot of comma splices, there's a lot of words and sentences that are not punctuated correctly. So all of this has to be organized and they have to do it. This is something that your students need to do by themselves and they need to learn to do that. They can't just ramble on the screen and turn it in. No, they have to actually do the work and make it correct. So this is a very teachable moment for them. You tell them, your job is to act like an editor. The AI got your ideas out of your head and onto the page. That's the hard part. That's the part that hurt your hands or took forever to type. Now you get to shape those ideas. You add punctuation, you delete filler words, you break long sentences into shorter ones. So you have to make sure that they actually do this dictation and drafting and editing the way they can clean it up in a way that is usable and easy to read. Now, for a student with dysgraphia, this is life changing. Or like for a student with arthritis, like my cousin, this is wonderful, or maybe even that kid that types like 10 words per minute and they get frustrated. This can really help them. This really provides more accessibility. Now, they're still doing the cognitive work. They're still organizing, they're still revising, they're still making choices about word order and clarity, but that physical barrier is gone and the thinking is very much still there. All right, now on to barrier number 5, executive function and overwhelm. Now, this is the student who looks at a project description, write a 5-paragraph essay analyzing the causes of World War I, and it's just over for them. They're like, they don't start, they don't ask for help, they just shut down. And this could look like laziness, but and it could look like they just don't care. But what's really happening is overwhelm, hopefully. That's what's really happening. And they can't break the task into steps. They don't know where to start. The assignment feels like climbing a mountain with no trail, no map, no water. They're just out there in the desert by themselves. And AI can act as an incredible break it down partner. So you can sit with a student, or they can do this independently once they learn the process. And you can say, let's ask the AI to help us make a step by step plan. And you might prompt the AI with something like this. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to go into ChatGPT really quick. We could also use Gemini. I like Gemini for these things as well too. So I'm going to say, break this essay into small manageable steps for students who feel overwhelmed. And I'm going to put in the prompt that I want, which is the 5-paragraph essay on World War One. But I'm going to say, make sure you add this, do not write the essay for them. Or you could say, do not write the essay for me, because depending on the AI you use, if there are some student friendly AIs that will never do that, and there's a ChatGPT version that will never do that. But in case you're not using that one, make sure that you write that. But normally the ones that will be in your school would never do that anyway. So we're going to go ahead and put that in there. And it starts with understanding the assignment, listing possible causes, choose 3 main causes, do light research, plan the paragraphs, and it has each paragraph broken down, and then shows them how to write 1 paragraph at the time, and then how to revise and edit. So really nice, just really step by step, and you can even turn it into a checklist for them so they can just like tick off boxes as they do it. So this mountain becomes a series of really small climbable steps. The student knows what to do first, second, and third, and they're no longer in the desert by themselves trying to figure out what to do next. So this doesn't reduce rigor, guys. It doesn't lower expectations. It's all about reducing the friction. It gets them unstuck so that they can really engage with the content. All right, and finally, just a word about ethics and privacy, because that's really important whenever we're talking about accessibility and AI. Now, the ethical use of these tools. Here's something to think about. Number 1, student agency matters. So we're going to let students choose how they access content and how they express their learning. If a kid does not want to use the tool, we don't want to force it on them, even if we know this would help them tremendously. Choice is really part of the dignity. Privacy matters. Number 2, be really cautious about uploading identifiable information, PII, into AI models. Many of these platforms store data. Some use it to train future models. Make sure you follow your district policies, and if they have an AI they want you to use, stick to that one. When in doubt, anonymize student names and any identifying details before pasting into an AI tool. Equity matters. Make sure all students know these tools exist and how to use them. I said all students, every student in your classroom, because accessibility isn't just for students who have IEPs or parents who loudly advocate for them. This is for every student in our classroom. And always ask yourself this critical question, because this is the main ethical question. Ethics is on 4 pillars, and we want to ask ourselves this whenever we're choosing a new tool. Does this tool support thinking, or does it replace thinking? If it's removing a barrier so the student can think more deeply, by all means, go ahead, use it, proceed. But if it's doing the thinking for them, you may have to pause and rethink your approach. That's something that we would not want to do. So I would like to leave you with this thought. There's a fear out there that AI will make education less human, that it will turn our students into passive consumers who don't have to think or struggle or grow. But my experience, both as someone who needs captions to fully participate in conversations and as a teacher who's worked with students facing all kinds of barriers, has really been the opposite. When we use tools thoughtfully and intentionally, You have to use them carefully, guys. We're not replacing human connection. We're not eliminating challenge. We're clearing away the debris. We're making it easier for our students so that real human connection can happen and so that real learning can happen. And I want to encourage you to go ahead and use this in your class. And your next step doesn't have to be a big one. Just find one student, find one tool, ask them if it helped, and build from there. That's how we really create more accessible, more inclusive classrooms. One student, one barrier, one tool at a time. Thank you guys so much for your time today, for your open minds, and for the absolutely incredible work you do for kids every single day. You're making a difference, and I hope these tools make your job a little bit easier. I'm going to let you guys ask questions. I see there's a few things in the chat. Um, Let me go ahead and look. Let's see here. Yeah, these tools can really go for a variety of students. All right. No more questions. Thank you guys so much for joining. Spread the word, please. Like, if you know of any student teachers that can join, we're really trying to boost our numbers, and we appreciate those attending, but we would love to have more attendance. Our numbers are, we would love to increase our numbers. I'll say that. And oh, we have an announcement to make. If you would like a certification for the webinar that you saw today, it was in the chat and James put it in the chat today. You will have the link in the chat. James will put it in again. And you can go to our website, Pathfinders Online Institute. You can take a short quiz and then submit a request to receive your certification in 3 to 5 business days. Also, please feel free to contact me. I see a lot of you saying that your district would need this. We would love to partner with different districts and different schools and do professional development sessions just for you guys. So if that's something that you are interested in, please go ahead and reach out to me and let us know that this is something that you would like and that you would like your school to partner with us. It's absolutely free, so just something to think about. All right, everyone, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye, everyone.